by two separate yet equally important groups: the police who investigate crime and the district attorneys who prosecute the offenders. These are their stories.
Hell, kid, it ain't even midnight yet. You're jumping the gun. Tourist shit. Well, every little bit helps. What? It's not like you're gonna use it. What do you expect me to do? Cry over your little broken body? Call the cops? It's not like they're gonna give two craps. Not with everything else that's going down tonight. Okay, damn it. Don't say I never did nothing for you.
Took you long enough.
Yeah, well, I had to put on my face. I wanted to look my best for the big party.
Midnight. Welcome to the new millennium.
Looks a lot like the old millennium. Where's the ME?
She got called away. Assistant should be here with the body bag any time.
Poor little kid. He doesn't look more than 12 years old.
Some city we live in, huh? Severe internal hemorrhaging. Broken radius, multiple contusions.
Somebody beat him with a baseball bat?
Nah, something with a sharper edge. Check out the gash across his scalp. He's also got a burn mark on his hand. Definitely from a taser, and definitely fresh.
Time of death?
Around 8, probably. Body's pretty stiff. No ID, nothing in his pockets. See the ring around the top of his head where his hair is plastered down?
Hat hair. He was wearing a cap earlier today. I've heard of kids getting killed for their shoes, but their hats? What about the bag?
Empty.
Why would he be holding an empty bag?
Hey, detectives. I caught this guy hanging around outside the alley. Elijah the Prophet.
You know him?
Sure. Picked him up at 5 for disturbing the peace. Found him standing on his shopping cart outside the Schubert, ranting about Y2K.
I was just telling the people what the puppet masters don't want them to know.
Why don't you tell me what you know about the dead kid over there?
I'm the one who reported the murder, okay? I'm the good guy here.
Yeah? Well, before I put in for your Good Citizenship Award, you gotta tell me, what did you take from the body?
What? Do I look like a grave robber? I didn't take nothing.
That cap doesn't fit you so well.
It shrank in the wash.
Or maybe you swiped it off the kid.
All right. He was through using it, wasn't he? Now let me go. I gotta get over to the Lincoln Tunnel and go protect my stockpile from looters.
I want you to turn over everything you took off the kid. Now.
I'm homeless, officer. Everything I own is on me. So go ahead, search.
I seem to recall you saying something about a stockpile.
Nobody gets near my stockpile. I'm a citizen. I got a constitutional right to my stuff. It's there in the Fourth Amendment, pig.
I'll have to read it sometime. But meanwhile, you're still the most likely suspect in this case. Listen, Elijah, I know you're a prophet, and I'm just a cop, but take it from me, this Y2K bug is a bunch of BS.
That's what you government stooges want us to think. But I'm not one of your gullible plebes. I read.
Well, there's your problem.
And I'll tell you another thing. After your computer-controlled police state comes crashing down, I'll be equipped to survive.
In the style to which you've grown accustomed, no doubt. Okay, buddy, tell the truth. Did you do this?
Kill the kid, you mean? You think I killed the kid and then turned around and reported it? Do I look crazy?
So, where were you at 8 o'clock this evening?
Enjoying the hospitality of the 5th Precinct. I was in the holding tank.
That true?
Yeah, he was released about 8:30.
Yeah, I guess that clears you. Look, I can take you down to the station right now and let the jackbooted thugs work you over, or you can take me to your stockpile. Which is it gonna be?
I'm not scared of you. Come the stroke of midnight, your police state's gonna collapse like a rotten jack-o'-lantern.
I hate to burst your bubble, Mr. Prophet, but it's already after midnight.
Huh? I should have known it would be off. Stupid tourist junk. But I don't get it. The system's supposed to be crashing. How come the streetlights are still on?
We have this super secret emergency backup system.
Damn you guys. You think of everything.
Now, should I call the station and have them charge up the cattle prods?
No, that won't be necessary. Follow me. There's my stockpile. Stuff I got from the kid's bag is in the bundle on top.
Fosse program, Annie get your gun sweatshirt, cabaret mugs, 1 ticket to Aida. Hey, a credit card receipt.
Yeah, that ought to get us somewhere.
And the credit card people told you right where I was staying?
They had a record of the hotel charge, Mrs. Tallis, and the hotel confirmed you're booked through the end of the week.
Amazing. You managed to recover my stolen bag when I didn't even report the crime.
That's the networked world for you.
And here I thought all the networks were going to be down today.
For God's sake.
We're investigating the murder of the thief, and we'd like to ask you a few questions, if that's okay.
Of course. As long as I don't miss curtain time. We're catching Dame Edna tonight.
Here's a photo of the merchandise we recovered from the shopping cart. Do you see everything that was in your bag?
I think so, yes. Aha! So that's where my ticket to Aida went. I emptied out my handbag looking for that son of a gun. Had to miss the... Wait. Statue of Liberty.
Come again?
There was a model of the Statue of Liberty, about yay high. It had a marble base with a clock in it.
Can you tell us where the bag was stolen?
It was on 42nd Street, about, 4:30. I was just coming from the half-price ticket booth, very pleased with myself. I'd managed to snag the very last ticket to a preview of Aida. I felt a tug, and before I knew what was what, there he was, zipping away with my bag.
So you wouldn't be able to ID him?
I'm afraid I didn't see his face, just his backside.
What brought you to New York?
The Millennium, of course.
It's not the Millennium back in St. Louis?
Well, of course, but this is where the action is. My friends and I are part of a theater society, the Looky-Loos. We make a Broadway trek once a year, usually in the fall. But this time around, we decided to wait a bit, so we could be part of all the fun in Times Square.
How come you didn't report the crime?
Well, I mean, it was New Year's Eve. I'm sure the police had their hands full just keeping the peace.
So it was a courtesy to us?
Well, that and, I'm flying back to St. Louis tonight, and what can I say? I guess I just chalked it up as a loss.
Leaving tonight? You're cutting the trip short?
I thought you were seeing Dame Edna.
Oh, that's right. Today's only Tuesday. You see? You've got me all flustered.
Mrs. Tallis, where were you at 8 o'clock last night?
Was that the time of the murder? Are you asking me for my alibi?
If you don't mind.
Not at all. This is just like that TV show. Wait till the girls hear about this.
Mrs. Tallis.
I was at Aida, of course, with the other Looky-Loo ladies.
Wait, wasn't your ticket one of the things that was stolen?
Yes, and it was the last one available. You caught me, detectives. Truth is, since I couldn't get in, I ended up killing time. Just milling about with the New Year's crowds. I was waiting for the show to be over so I could meet up with the group and hear about it. I don't think it's going to run long.
Did you get a good look at the thief?
Oh, not really. It all happened so fast.
Try to remember. You may have been the last person to see him alive.
Oh, dear. He was just a boy, poor thing. Brown hair. I think he was wearing a sports jersey of some sort. It had a logo on the front of, that team that plays the game with the ball.
You saw the logo on the boy's jersey while he was running away?
Oh, well, no, what I mean is, I recognize the team colors.
Which are?
Green and gold.
What are you not telling us, Mrs. Tallis?
Well, I suppose I did see a bit more of the boy than I let on. I got into a bit of a tussle with him before he got away.
You got into a tussle.
I'm not entirely naive, I'm well aware how rough the streets of Manhattan can be, especially on New Year's Eve. Let's just say I came prepared.
May I?
I feel just awful about it now, knowing what happened to the boy, after. But, well, it was the instinct of self-preservation kicking in.
Well, from the looks of it, your instincts are quite healthy, Mrs. Tallis. Did you go after the thief with any of these weapons?
Of course not. He was just a child. I'd never risk hurting a child.
We found a taser burn on the boy's hand.
Did you? Yes, I suppose I may have tased him. Not badly, mind you. Just a little mini tase. Enough to knock him down. Then I grabbed from my bag and we tussled.
But he got away.
Children are slippery.
Mrs. Tallis, how would you like front row tickets to a new drama? It's playing down at the Manhattan Criminal Court building.
Now, wait a minute, detective. You don't seriously think...
That you're holding something back? Yes. So why don't you hand it over?
It's the boy's backpack. I pulled it off him when we were, you know.
Tussling.
Right. I said to him, give me my bag and I'll give you yours. But he just took off without it. I guess he was scared.
And why didn't you tell us this at the start?
Take a look inside. You'll see his trinkets are considerably more valuable than mine. I figured I got the better deal in the exchange. And it would have made such a great punchline to my story.
Quite an assortment we got here.
Looks like our victim had a busy day.
Yeah, but is any of this stuff gonna get us closer to an ID? Check it out. Little Gloomy Comics Digest.
What's the resale value on that, do you think?
What's playing on the Discman? Ricky Martin. That's what comes of living La Vida Loca. You don't notice the sneak thieves.
Wonder Woman, where are you?
If the kid drew that, he's pretty good. A cry for help?
To a superhero? He could at least learn how to spell Wonder Woman.
And March handbag. Deborah would kill for one of these. Not that she's ever gonna get one on my salary. Top of the world ticket. Time stamped 2 o'clock on the 25th.
So his mom took him to the top of the World Trade Center for Christmas?
Or maybe he took himself up, so he could collect his own Christmas presents from all the tourists while they were busy gawking out the window.
You're a cynic, Curtis, but you're probably right. Giles Breton's passion juice. I don't even want to take a whiff of that.
Look at this, look at this.
It's gonna be what, 3 grams of crack?
No, I think it's methamphetamine.
Times are changing. Think the kid smoked it?
More likely he was transporting it for somebody. Hey, what's that?
Voucher for a free lunch at the 9th Avenue Community Center.
And it's from a child welfare agency. Good Shepherd. Turn it over.
Bingo.
Aaron Bauer.
Good Shepherd. Name sounds familiar. Catholic agency?
Yeah, I'm calling him right now. This is Detective Ray Curtis of the 27th Precinct. I've got some information about someone, a minor. I believe he may be a client of yours. Name's Aaron Bauer. Yes, I'll hold.
Wait a minute. That's that guy. What's his name? Montrose.
Montrose?
Stephen Montrose. He's the director down there. Wrote that book that made a big splash last spring. The Empty High Chair.
Sure. I've seen him on talk shows. He's always going on about...
About how the child welfare system breaks up families and needs to be reformed from the top down. His agency's been getting tons of good press.
And we'll need the boy's case file as well. Thanks a lot. Kid lived with his mother. Caseworker said she could arrange a meeting at the agency in 3 hours.
Well, this ought to be pleasant.
That's Aaron, all right.
You're the caseworker?
From the start.
Who are they?
This is Detective Briscoe and Detective Curtis.
Cops? No, you didn't tell me there was gonna be cops here.
Sit down, Mrs. Bauer. Mrs. Bauer, there's no easy way to say this. I'm afraid your son Aaron is dead.
Nah, he's just messing with you. He's playing possum. He always does that. He makes believe.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Bauer. We found his body last night. Severe head trauma. We're afraid that...
Give me a break, okay? Where is he really? You just want to put him back in City Youth Home. That place is a hellhole.
We're trying to figure out who did this to him, and we need you to answer some questions.
Yeah? Shoot.
Can you tell us when you last saw Aaron?
He was gone when I woke up. Oh, probably off at the arcade. I was sleeping late, so sue me, right? Last night was New Year's Eve.
We know, but when did you see your son?
9 o'clock. That's his bedtime. I tucked him in.
Mrs. Bauer, Aaron was killed at 8.
I told you, that's just pretend.
We found your son's backpack, and that's what led us to you. Some items in it lead us to suspect that he was involved in criminal activities.
Bullshit! My Aaron's a good boy. He ain't the type to do drugs.
We didn't say anything about drugs. Was there anyone who wished your son harm, who might have beat him?
Oh, he's gonna get a beating, I tell you what. He knows damn well what comes of pulling stunts like this. Yeah, he's gonna get it good.
Mrs. Bauer, did Aaron have any enemies?
Enemies? No. He's just a kid. Wait a minute. You ain't New York City cops at all. No. You're from Russell County.
What?
You bastard! You goddamn kidnappers ain't gonna get away with this! You're not taking him again! I'll kill you!
What's going on here?
He's my baby! He's my baby!
You don't have to stand for this, Mrs. Bauer.
No!
Take her home.
Of course.
Stephen Montrose, General Director of Good Shepherd. Would you mind explaining what just happened in my office?
You just interfered with a murder investigation.
Is Jenna Bauer a suspect?
Jenna Bauer is the mother.
Oh, I see. Look, detectives, this agency was set up to serve the needs of at-risk families, those whom the other agencies have abandoned to poverty and addiction.
We understand, but...
Do you? You've just come steamrolling in and hit one of my clients with about the most devastating news you can imagine. But instead of leaving her to her grief, you turn around and give her the 3rd degree, like she was a common criminal. Not in my office, detectives, not here.
I'm sorry you don't approve of our technique, Dr. Montrose, but...
I'm familiar with the boy's case history. I can answer your questions.
What was Mrs. Bauer yelling about when you came in?
Something about us being from Russell County. Come to take her kid?
Can't help you with that one. My knowledge of the Bauers only goes back 2 years. That's when they arrived in New York. Jenna was living on the street when Good Shepherd first intervened, about 6 months later. The legal machine had shunted the boy off to City Youth Home. We successfully fought to get mother and son back together. So you see, Jenna Bauer does have some cause for feeling less than friendly toward the police.
Aaron was involved in some shady business. There were drugs in his backpack.
Crystal meth.
Is there any possibility that he or his mother...
No, our clients don't abuse drugs.
None of them? You said yourself these are at-risk people.
Of course. Most have struggled with addictions of one sort or another. But each of our clients has made a commitment to turn his or her life around. We've worked closely with Mrs. Bauer. We can vouch for her.
On the evidence, I'm not so sure Mrs. Bauer should have had custody.
Do you always blame the parent for their child's death, Detective? Or only when the parent is poor?
Now wait a minute.
No, you wait a minute. People like Jenna Bauer have had it hard enough in New York just getting by. It doesn't help when the city's guardians look at them like they were moral degenerates.
She practically bragged that she beat the kid.
You're mistaken, Detective. All of our clients are given intensive training in positive parenting.
When's the last time the Bauer's caseworker paid a visit, do you know?
Of course. Miss Schuyler filed a visitation report on Christmas Day.
We'll need to see the case file, of course.
I'm sorry, that's not possible.
This is a murder investigation, Dr. Montrose.
The files contain some sensitive material from several years ago, in another state. I assure you nothing remotely relevant to the current tragedy.
I thought you didn't know anything about the Bauers before they came to New York.
Nothing relevant, I meant. Am I a suspect now, too?
Dr. Montrose, I've got to insist that you follow procedure and turn over the Bauer case file.
You should have called ahead, Detective. Procedure dictates that you give us at least 2 hours advanced warning.
I put in a request when I phoned the caseworker.
Well, I wasn't informed.
Why are you putting up roadblocks? Partner with us here.
Sorry, but I know what happens when you partner with the city. They tell you they're only going to see that you follow state guidelines, but it's really a pretext for legal action. They'd love to take Good Shepherd away from me.
Well, I thought Good Shepherd was run by the Archdiocese.
The same goes double for them. I stay away from all bureaucrats, sacred and secular.
You know we can get a court order.
You can, but you won't. I've fought the city many times, Detective. It's a powerful adversary, but it hates to look bad in public. I know how to make it look bad. That's how I've bought the space to run my agency my way.
Your private kingdom.
Call it what you will.
So tell me, why did Miss Bauer have such a big problem with cops?
You want to hear about Jenna Bauer's problem with cops? Cops killed Aaron's father. Narco squad kicked down their door in the middle of the night. Started tearing the place apart looking for contraband. When Mr. Bauer stepped forward to defend his home, they shot him. Just another casualty of the drug war. So can you blame Mrs. Bauer for thinking maybe the story was repeating itself?
I just had an enlightening conversation with the sheriff of Russell County, Kansas. He told me about the drug bust that killed Aaron's dad. Apparently, they found 3 pounds of meth in the house.
That's a relevant fact. Wonder if it's in the Bauer's case file.
You really think Mom's the killer?
I hope my hunch is wrong, but yeah, I do.
You better hope your hunch is right. Montrose has himself a big megaphone, and he's been making a lot of noise about how you roughed up his client. What's your plan? Subpoena the boy's files?
Maybe. But first, I think we need to pay Mrs. Bauer a visit. Can we get a search warrant, just in case?
The press is still giving us grief over the way we fumbled the preppy jogger case. They're gonna crucify us if you break into this apartment and come up empty. I hope you know what you're doing.
NYPD, open up! Mrs. Bauer, if you don't let us in, we're gonna have to force the door. Oh, man. What a wreck.
If we're lucky, she won't come back and make a scene.
I wouldn't worry about that.
Oh, hell. Dead?
Very.
I'll call dispatch. Yeah, this is Briscoe. We're on the scene at the Bauer residence, and we're gonna need an ME. Looks like a 10109. Yeah, right.
Lights don't work.
No heat either. I'm guessing the electricity's been cut off.
I wonder how long. Wasn't Good Shepherd supposed to take care of this kind of thing?
We've got 2 victims now. Let's get a better picture of how they died, and how they lived.
Somebody paid Jenna Bauer $1,000 back in April. New Directions Holding Company.
I have a feeling $1,000 checks didn't show up in her mailbox all that often.
I wonder how she scored this one. Wonder how this fell over.
Mrs. Talus's Statue of Liberty clock.
Damn it, Lenny. Look, right there.
Blood.
I can guess whose. The poor kid comes home with this crap, and she beats him with it.
Meth pipe. Looks like Mom had a bad habit.
Guess we know who Aaron was bringing the candy for.
And knowing meth addicts, I can imagine she wasn't too compassionate when he came home without it.
Vodka bottle's empty.
And so's the bottle of Xanax. I think we found our cause of death.
Satisfied?
Yeah, I think our killer's gonna miss her date in court.
You think she overdosed on purpose? Out of guilt?
Maybe. She's a junkie, Ray. Don't hurt yourself trying to figure it out. Well, what do you know?
M.E.?
It's the caseworker from Good Shepherd. And she's knocking on the wrong door. Oh, hey, miss, the party's down here.
Detective Briscoe? What are you doing? Oh my god! It's Mrs. Bauer!
I'm afraid so.
Tell me, did the place look like this on Christmas Day?
Well, how should I know?
Isn't that the date of your last visit?
My last visit? I wasn't here on Christmas. Oh. I'd better call the office about this. Dr. Montrose? Yeah, I'm at the apartment. There's something you should know.
The Bauer case. Isn't it time we close the file on that one?
I'd love to, believe me, but justice hasn't been done.
Poetic justice, maybe. Nobody comes away from this one looking good. Including us.
What Detective Curtis is saying is, we think you've got a case against the Good Shepherd Agency.
Against Stefan Montrose, you mean? The champion of the downtrodden?
Are you saying he's the killer?
No, but his agency failed to prevent the deaths. We feel he's responsible.
Oh, great.
Go ahead, I'm listening. Tell me why we should go after Montrose.
Law says a child welfare agency's got to check in with clients regularly.
And Good Shepherd didn't?
Apparently not.
She drew a blank when we asked about her last visit.
And Montrose himself basically admitted that he ignores state procedure.
Are we going to stand by and let our social service agencies go rogue?
Jack, we don't have a case against him.
Not yet. Let's see what's in those case files.
Here's the last record in the file.
What about the sensitive material from several years ago Montrose told us about?
Mysteriously missing.
Christmas Day, huh? That is one dedicated caseworker.
That's one lying caseworker. We got a ticket says Aaron Bauer was at the top of the World Trade Center at 2 that afternoon.
This report's a complete fabrication, no question. But who do we indict? Simplest thing would be to go after the caseworker, but...
Montrose says he prefers to be the point of contact with the city.
Then let's give him what he wants.
Throughout his career, Stefan Montrose has continually shone a light on the system's indifference to its most vulnerable citizens. Tuesday afternoon, the system struck back.
We know what the columns are saying, Miss Jameson. We intend to prove that Dr. Montrose is guilty as charged.
Manslaughter with gross negligence?
In addition to one count of falsification of records with intent to deceive.
I'm afraid you won't get the chance to present those records in court. I'm filing a motion to suppress. Paperwork went through the day before the subpoena was served. Good Shepherd is no longer run by the Archdiocese of New York. It's now an entirely private agency, administered through Dr. Montrose's holding company, New Directions.
So you propose to throw out the evidence because we put the wrong address on the subpoena? Of all the underhanded ploys.
The argument is technically correct. Improper service of a subpoena invalidates admissibility. The court finds for the motion.
Fine. We'll proceed without it.
Dr. Montrose, we've heard in graphic detail about the final days of Aaron Bauer. It's natural to feel pity and perhaps even outrage over the manner in which he died. So tell the court, are you in fact guilty of gross negligence?
No, I am not.
Let me read you a quote. Neglect is built into our current welfare system. The client is a mere asset to be kept or traded as it benefits the agency.
You're reading to me from my own book, The Empty High Chair, published last spring. My agency is different.
Indeed, Good Shepherd is distinguished for treating its clients with dignity, as individuals with needs. Isn't that right?
Objection! Leading. Defense is giving a speech for her client.
Sustained. Let's concentrate on the facts of this case, shall we?
Were you personally involved in the case of Aaron Bauer?
I involved myself personally in every one of my cases, and this was especially true with respect to Aaron.
How so?
When the Bauers first came to my attention, Aaron had been taken into state custody and shut away inside City Youth Home. I know that institution well. I spent my own formative years there. Nobody deserves to go to City Youth Home. Nobody.
And yet, despite your personal involvement in this case, Aaron Bauer was killed. How do you explain this?
One word: drugs. First it was the crack epidemic. Now, just as that's beginning to subside, an even worse plague is sweeping through New York. It's a plague that destroys mostly those on the margins, so it's easy for the rest of us to ignore.
Do you have some ideas for addressing this problem?
Objection. Immaterial. The defendant is changing the subject.
Sustained. Please strike that last statement from the testimony. New York City is not on trial here.
Jenna Bauer lapsed back into addiction unbeknownst to you, although your caseworker visited her as recently as Christmas Day.
I'm afraid that's correct. In spite of our vigilance, in spite of intensive therapy, the siren call of crystal meth proved too much for her. And once she began using again, she quickly became a danger to her son.
How did she manage to pull the wool over your eyes?
It's one of the most insidious aspects of the syndrome. I've seen it many times. The addict puts up a false front of normalcy, a front that can fool even a trained observer.
One last question. Has this tragedy caused you to re-examine your practice?
Naturally, we're thoroughly reviewing our procedures. We exist to serve our clients. The death of one impoverishes us all.
Of course. Thank you, Dr. Montrose. Your witness, Mr. McCoy.
Dr. Montrose. Your agency advocated for Jenna Bauer in her bid to regain custody of her son, Aaron. In retrospect, was this in Aaron's best interest?
Considering his fate, the answer has to be no. But hindsight is always 20/20.
At the time, you believed the opposite to be self-evident, right? Every mother deserves to retain the custody of her children?
We weighed the pros and cons of Jenna Bauer's case, and we came to the conclusion that she deserved a second chance. Perhaps if we'd had more facts at our disposal, we would have agreed with the city's decision.
In this case, the alternative was placing Aaron in City Youth Home. You simply didn't want him there. Dr. Montrose, have you ever signed off on moving a child from his parents' custody into the institutional foster care system?
No.
State guidelines for social welfare agencies mandate one home visit per month at the very least.
You needn't lecture me. I'm well acquainted with state guidelines.
Do you follow them?
Yes, Mr. McCoy. We follow the state guidelines, meticulously.
Good Shepherd didn't have its own guidelines?
No.
Didn't you tell the detectives that Good Shepherd makes its own guidelines?
I don't recall saying anything of the sort.
Think back, Dr. Montrose. It was during the same interview in which you refused to turn over Aaron Bauer's case files, in clear violation of standard procedure.
Objection, immaterial.
It goes to credibility, Your Honor.
Overruled.
I won't deny that our agency operates according to unique procedures, but if anything, our guidelines are more comprehensive than the state's.
You've heard Detective Curtis's account of what he found in Jenna Bauer's apartment, and you've seen the pictures.
Indeed I have. What can I say? Appalling. I had no idea until this very morning when my counsel showed me the pictures.
We know your caseworker, Ms. Schuyler, briefed you after Mrs. Bauer's body was discovered.
Well, yes, of course, but it takes a picture to really communicate the situation.
You're the expert, Dr. Montrose. Do you think it's possible for conditions to degenerate that rapidly in a mere 8 days?
It's possible, I suppose. But I have to admit, if I were an outside observer, I'd find it a difficult story to swallow. Indeed, if it weren't for my faith in my employer, Miss Schuyler, I'd be inclined to think it was a story.
Really? No further questions, Your Honor.
Defense calls Wanda Schuyler to the witness stand. I know this is difficult for you, Miss Schuyler, but I want you to recall for us the moment you stepped into Jenna Bauer's apartment on January 1st.
It was like stepping off a cliff, you know?
Because of your feelings for Mrs. Bauer, you mean? Because you cared about her so much?
Objection! Leading.
Sustained.
Would you say you had a personal connection with Aaron Bauer?
Yes, I did. Aaron, he was a great kid. Talented, you know. He wanted to be a comic book artist when he grew up. He and I had a little private game where he pretended I was a superhero.
But he didn't say or do anything in the last few months to indicate his home life was deteriorating?
No. You know how boys can be at his age. Stoic. He probably thought it would be unmanly or disloyal to tattle on his mom.
Objection! The witness is speculating about the victim's motivations.
Sustained. Please confine yourself to your own impressions.
How long have you been employed with Good Shepherd, Miss Schuyler?
It'll be 3 years in April.
And in that time, has Dr. Montrose ever encouraged you to be negligent in your duties?
Not at all, no. Dr. Montrose is an inspiration. He knows firsthand how broken the system is, and he's completely passionate about reforming it. It's energizing. I only wish... I just wish this hadn't happened to him. I mean, to all of us.
Of course. We all do. Your witness.
Miss Schuyler, Dr. Montrose has testified that you visited the Bauers in their apartment on Christmas Day. At that time, did you find any indications that Jenna Bauer had lapsed back into her addiction to crystal meth?
I didn't see any... I never made that visit. I don't have an excuse. I simply failed to do my job, and then I faked the report after the fact to cover up. I'm sorry, Dr. Montrose.
That's not what you said at the deposition. Are you changing your testimony, Miss Schuyler?
I guess so.
Were you briefed about this? Your Honor, prosecution was unprepared for this development. We petitioned the court for a continuance.
Petition granted. We will resume trial next week.
I've been at the bar 30 years, Miss Jameson, but I don't think I've ever witnessed such a blatantly unethical maneuver. Instructing a witness to change her testimony without altering the deposition.
You have no grounds for accusing me of complicity.
You'd better hope I don't find any. Now, why are you protecting Dr. Montrose?
Don't let yourself be intimidated, Miss Schuyler. You don't have to answer anything.
No, but you do have to go to jail if you're found guilty of falsifying documents.
We need you to come clean. Please. If you're telling the truth about forging that report, then you must have lied when you said you cared about Aaron.
That's not true. I did care. We had a bond.
Why would you neglect your duties towards someone you care about?
You mentioned on the stand something about a private game between you and Aaron.
It was just a silly joke. It didn't mean anything.
It did to him, I think.
You were his hero, but you failed.
You have to understand.
Wanda, be quiet.
I can't. You know I believe in Dr. Montrose, but I just can't. You'd better go.
I represent you.
Not anymore.
Now, what's the real story? Miss Schuyler, I hold here your personal copy of a visitation report dated December 25th, signed by you and Dr. Montrose. Did you write this report?
No,
Who did?
Dr. Montrose.
But this is your signature.
Yes.
If you didn't write this report, why did you put your name on it?
He said, Dr. Montrose told me the city wanted to use the Bauer tragedy as a pretext for legal action, taking over the agency. Putting my name on that document was the only way to save it.
When did you last visit Jenna and Aaron Bauer?
Last spring? 8 months ago.
Just after Dr. Montrose's book was published.
Yes, that's when things started getting really crazy for all of us. We were flooded with new clients. There was no way we could keep up with them. And then one day, Dr. Montrose called us into his office and told us about his new early graduation program.
Tell us about Dr. Montrose's early graduation program.
He said he determined that a number of our clients no longer needed our services.
According to state guidelines.
No, according to his own guidelines. He called them his early graduates. He mailed each of them a certificate and a one-time payment of $1,000 in exchange for...
In exchange for them keeping quiet.
Yes.
Your witness.
We need to talk.
Ready to cut a deal?
My fate is immaterial, Mr. McCoy. My sole concern is to keep the reform movement from falling apart.
Very noble. What are you proposing?
Dr. Montrose pleads to negligence and serves a 12-month probation. He agrees to step aside and allow an acting director to run Good Shepherd for the length of the term.
Oh, what an example of self-sacrifice that is. I've got a better idea, Dr. Montrose.
Looks like we're fighting this one to the end. See you in court, McCoy.
Welcome back to the stand, Dr. Montrose. Perhaps this time we can get to the truth. Wanda Schuyler has made some remarkable assertions. Would you care to revise any of your previous statements in the light of her testimony?
Well, clearly I was mistaken in claiming that Good Shepherd did everything it could to avert this tragedy. The caseworker assigned to the Bowers was negligent, criminally negligent.
Were you aware of her negligence? Did you in fact order her to stop making home visits?
Self-serving lies. I'm guilty of trusting in her professionalism, nothing else. I'm a very busy man, Mr. McCoy. I don't get personally involved in every case.
Allow me to read from the transcript. Counsel for the defense, were you personally involved in the case of Aaron Bauer? Defendant, I involve myself personally in every one of my cases.
Well, yes, I said that, but there's only so much of me to go around.
Wanda Schuyler mentioned an early graduation program. Dr. Montrose, did you issue payouts to your clients, then drop them from your active client list without ever informing Child Protective Services?
Of course not. That's a complete fabrication.
Your Honor, I would like to submit People's Exhibit D into evidence. A receipt for a $1,000 check issued to Jenna Bauer by the defendant's holding company, New Directions.
Objection. Immaterial. New Directions is a completely different and unconnected corporate entity. If they issued a check to Jenna Bauer, that has no bearing on Dr. Montrose's culpability.
Hardly immaterial, Your Honor.
Agreed. Objection overruled.
So, did you send Mrs. Bauer a $1,000 check last April, Dr. Montrose? Or is that also a complete fabrication?
I may have done so.
You don't remember?
I believe I did.
What prompted you? Charity?
Of course. The Bowers were very poor. They needed help.
Yes, they did. But you gave them cash.
Dr. Montrose has devoted his life to helping those who have been failed by the system. But some, sadly, are beyond help. And sometimes a good agency can be undone by the actions of one dishonest employee. If Wanda Schuyler hadn't failed to discharge her duties, and then compounded her failure with lies, might Good Shepherd have been able to save Jenna and Aaron Bauer? We'll never know. It's a bitter irony that a champion of reform should fail to spot the corruption among his own staff. He can be faulted, perhaps, for being too trusting, too optimistic about human nature. Surely this is no crime. But if my client is convicted of these charges, if he's sent to jail and his reform movement is crushed by the powers that be, it will be more than a crime. It will be an outrage.
Dr. Montrose made his name arguing that our welfare system treats his clients like numbers. He proposed to treat them with dignity as individuals. His message resonated with millions, and he became famous. But the demands of celebrity caused him to neglect his own principles. In the end, his own clients were reduced to numbers. Numbers on checks. Children belong with their parents. This is a sentiment that resonates with us, and we can be grateful that Dr. Montrose's advocacy has helped push our welfare system to take the claims of parents more seriously. But not every individual case conforms to the ideal. In the case of Jenna and Aaron Bauer, the defendant's ideals blinded him to the realities of the case and led him to make a serious error. The deaths of Aaron and Jenna Bauer left Dr. Montrose with a terrible decision to make. He could acknowledge his agency's mistake, but this would compromise his moral authority as a public advocate. Or he could cover up the evidence of his neglect and perhaps preserve his reputation at the expense of his integrity. Dr. Montrose chose the less noble expedient. What causes people to commit crimes of gross negligence? I've run across many motives in my day: resentment, greed, indifference, callousness. Dr. Montrose is motivated to make the world a better place. His good intentions, it seems, have blinded him to the evil he has perpetrated. That's what makes him a tragic figure and a dangerous one. And that's why it's so imperative that justice be done.
Have you reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor. In the case of gross negligence, we find the defendant, Stephen Montrose, guilty as charged. In the case of manslaughter...
Another victory for truth and justice.
Is it? Good Shepherd will go into receivership, and before long it'll be just another child welfare agency.
Montrose was a fraud, Jack. He got what he deserves.
But does his movement deserve to die? How many parents are going to lose their kids as a result of this decision?
Hey, it's not our job to second guess. Our job is to call them as we seize them, and trust that it'll all work out in the end. Come on, let's get a drink.
Allison, you look great.
I feel great. I've even been running again. Where's Detective Curtis?
His daughter's birthday tonight. So, I'm guessing your recovery is going better than the last time we talked.
Last time we talked, I was in a coma. I've been seeing a hypnotherapist, of all things.
Anything jog your memory? Sorry, I was terrible.
No. I do remember running with Harrison. The orange overhead lamps and the trees. But that's it. Nothing after. I'm sorry.
Don't be. Trauma like this, there's often memory loss.
I still miss him, though. Harrison's family's been great. His father's been taking care of all the bills. And, of course, he's pleased as punch about his new grandson. We're calling him Brendan.
Good. We sort of wondered if this surprise grandbaby might be a problem.
Not at all. So we weren't married. So we were in high school. Things like this teach you. That stuff doesn't matter. Grandpa Bedford loves that boy to death.
Any more thoughts on who would have wanted to kill Harrison?
No. Everyone loved him. You really think someone targeted him? In the papers, they just call it a thrill kill.
Yeah, don't believe everything you read.
Well, thanks for everything, Detective. I'm sorry I can't help more.
Take care, Allison.